I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience. I'm in the main hall of a historic church, actually a room kind of like this one, about a block away from where I went to university. The room is packed, also very much like this one, which is strange, actually. I wonder, is coming out to see school board trustee candidates debate the new thing? I clock the police presence near the door, just as I see a national news crew finishing their setup to capture my next questioner. Do you support any terrorist organization? Have you ever supported any terrorist organization? I blink and look out into the crowd, and between the uniform and the bright lights, I see faces, friends and neighbors, fellow Torontonians. What on earth is going on? The answer is obviously no. But how did it come to this? My name's Ausma Malik, and this is a story of how a vibrant, diverse, and grassroots coalition of people, young and old, women and men, working class and wealthy, faithful and not, LGBT and otherwise, confronted hate and elected the first hijab-wearing Muslim woman to public office in Canada's largest city. It is, go ahead, yeah, it's pretty great. It is an epic battle, all 5 rounds. And as the great Muhammad Ali said, there's no pleasure in fights, but some fights are a pleasure to win. This is one of them. Round 1. It's more than 40 years ago, and I'm not yet born. My parents arrived from Pakistan to Canada, and they are burn-the-boat immigrants. There is no going back home for these two. They chose to be Canadian, and that is what they proudly become. As they settle down and they raise children, they make sure that we, my siblings and I, know that we too are Canadian, no matter if the kids at the corner call us Packy as we pass. In heated, often political dinner table conversations, there's a running joke in my family that I'm always on the side of the underdog. Everyone's lawyer, my mom says. And it's an exaggeration, but actually not by that much. And frankly, I blame my parents. I am this way, I would argue, because they taught me to honor people's experiences, to know that everyone deserves a chance and no one deserves to be ignored, sidelined, or forgotten. And whether it was in the neighborhood, at our schools, or at the mosque, Mama and Abu devoted their time, sweat, and even sometimes their tears to building community. None of us can succeed alone. As I was growing up, I had all these experiences, these great examples, and fast forward all of that, I'm a university student at the University of Toronto, actually. And while my classes are great, they require a lot of time and study, the real work for me is outside of them. Student activism calls me, and it promises to change the world. And of course, naturally, I answer. I find my tribe. We educate, we agitate, we organize, gender justice, accessible education, human rights, stop the war and the occupation. Our spheres of concern and influence collide. Some battles we win and others we don't. And I don't always get it right, but along the way, I learn the power of solidarity, the indescribable energy that comes from mobilizing good people for a great purpose. I take all these hard-learned lessons with me into the real world. As a political staffer, it's highlighting the gaps in the youth justice system. As a labor organizer, it's getting the best deal for working people. As a campaign director at a global charity, it's about learning to take the lead from women at the grassroots. And everywhere I go, I want to together grow trust, accountability, awareness, and action. Round 2. It's 2014, and I'm running in the municipal election for Toronto School Board trustee. Despite repeated asks, I'm initially very reluctant to put my name forward. While I worked with and have been inspired by incredible people in politics, it was never my ambition. It's a tough arena, and I'm not your typical player. Yet encouraged by family and the power and possibility of education, I launch a campaign. I have a website. I visit schools. I stand at people's doorways and overcome my own discomfort with talking about myself, and I say, yes, I am a product of public education. Teachers inspire me. Hallways of learning are where I became an activist. I know education policy. I care about this neighborhood and the kids in it. They need someone like me because I was someone like them. And I learned the best part of campaigning for me is to be able to express my truth. I want public education to be the best that it can be so that every student has the opportunity to succeed and thrive. Everywhere I go, my truth goes with me. It's genuine and sincere, and most of all, I feel safe with it. It turns out I shouldn't. Round 3. Yes, I'm racialized. Yes, I'm youngish. Yes, I'm a woman, and I'm obviously Muslim. Sexism, racism, and Islamophobia are not new to me. Barriers to participation are not new to me. So when I see some things online about me, appalling articles and disgusting tweets, I do feel sickened and upset, but I decide we've got to step it up. What other option is there? I work even harder. I campaign even stronger. I don't give it another thought because that's just the internet, right? I learned that Twitter and Reddit are where trolls live. It turns out it's an early warning sign that we ignore to our own peril. It's a sunny day. I'm out with my freshly printed flyers on a charming street and up a beautiful walk, and at the door I'm met with rage and insults instead of the usual polite interest that I get. This language, where is it coming from? And then it's shown to me, big, bright, bold, hate literature that has been dropped across the ward. It comes in 3 rounds. First a leaflet, then a postcard, then a door hanger. 3 different formats. Hate was not going to be ignored. And just in case anyone got too interested, it was all anonymous, of course. In order to get to the issues of the campaign, I actually have to stand in front of crowded rooms and say, no, I have never supported any terrorist organization, and nor do I now. In a small school gym, a candidates meeting is cut short when a group of thugs show up, heckle me, approach the front. The moderator cuts the meeting short, and then they wait for me outside of the front doors. I leave through a back entrance with my team, shaken, damn right, heartbroken, yes, absolutely, wondering, is it even worth it? Should I even go on? Round 4. I'm targeted for who I am, for my work on human rights and equity, for standing up against war and occupation. And let's be very clear, it is a surprisingly vicious campaign that is well-resourced and well-coordinated. It includes hate, lies, innuendo, and intimidation. The hate makes me doubt myself, my worth, my belonging, and this is no accident. Used by people to make others feel less human or not human at all, hate is a crafty thing. In recent days, it might even seem like hatefulness is commonplace, a path to power, or even a presidency. Yeah. The new normal. But there is nothing new or normal about it. Hate is a dangerous choice. It finds an opening where it can, and it wreaks havoc. Even in a city like ours, with a motto like diversity is our strength, we are not immune. Just scratch the surface. As Election Day approaches, my team and I decide to bring it. We're not going to be timid or scared. We're going to stand and fight. We're going to hit lies with truth. We're going to hit hate with hope, hope and smarts. And through it, a few things become clear. Start from the heart. When things got really tough on the campaign and I was feeling particularly lost, I did one of the only things that felt right to me. And I reached out to other women, particularly racialized women, who I knew were also running in the election campaign. I wrote to them and said, I support you. I know it's not easy and that you inspire me. And the notes that I got in return were so powerful, and their strength that they gave me to keep going can't be underestimated. At the same time, supporters took strongly to social media to drown out the hate. An amazing group called Women in TO Politics started a campaign with the hashtag #CityIWant, and to support me and other racialized women candidates who are experiencing an incredible level of hate and prejudice in the municipal election. My colleagues who I was coordinating the campaign with stood with me and spoke out, even when it might have been easier or expected for them to stay silent. You know, we had been building the ground for a long while. That's the truth. IRL, in real life, being in and part of community, knocking on doors almost a year before Election Day, and trying to build heart-to-heart relationships and finding joy in what we were doing. And when it really mattered, those heart-to-heart relationships overflowed with love. Showing up matters. You can't win if you don't enter the ring. So it's time for another All Candidates meeting, the out-of-body experience one, and I don't feel safe going, even though I should, and I expressed that. Social justice organizers and friends put a call out. They encourage people to show up, to make sure that there's a fair exchange, and to drive down intimidation. Looking out that night, as hard as it was also healing. And, you know, disruptions weren't tolerated. When people tried to make a ruckus, folks said, let's stick to the issues. And in the end, voters agreed. A prominent Toronto human rights lawyer who I never thought would even care about a race like mine reached out and offered to send a voicemail broadcast message against hate and in support of my candidacy. Hate is the exception, not the rule. It's another day of door knocking. I did a lot of that. And on that particular day, another piece of hate literature had dropped. Street after street after street. A man approaches me and asks if I'm Ausma Malik. And I say yes, bracing for what I'm expecting to come. He describes how for days he's been tearing down these hateful flyers in his neighborhood and taking them out of the doors of his neighbors. He tells me that his family are Holocaust survivors, and when he saw what was happening to me, it reminded him of the stories they'd tell about anti-Semitism. In those weeks, he's one of the hundreds of people who are in my corner, acquaintances and strangers alike, who join me to knock on doors, donate, speak to their friends, who are not just cheering for me ringside, but are jumping in shoulder to shoulder. Round 5. It is the final round of the fight, and it is a knockout. Every single person who votes that day makes a decision. I hope that they voted for me because they know I'm a fighter and I'll fight for the best that public education can be. Their vote also shows anyone who supported the campaign of hate that they won't stand for it. I know, that there are global networks that promote Islamophobia and anti-Semitism and work to undermine people like me. Muslim baiting is the norm. You can go on the comment section of any online news site. There are actually people who contend whether Black Lives Matter or whether the lives of Indigenous women, trans people, or even climate justice is worth fighting for. This is a world that we live in. This victory wasn't magic, it wasn't easy, and it wasn't simple. No one's trained to be a target. Frankly, we learn along the way. And it's no fun at all being called a terrorist. Even standing here in front of you today and talking about it is hard. Hate has a lasting impact, but so does solidarity. And as this past week has shown us, the lessons that we learn and that we take forward can never stop. In victory, in defeat, in the thick of a fight, or when you're just getting started, our work continues. Every single day, we have to create spaces and be people who together demonstrate that hate is always, always unwelcome. Be people that invite kindness, empathy, and even love, that channel anger and outrage into creativity, organizing, and action, that transform systems that work for the few to work for the many, and that embrace and engage difference without fear. I'm standing here in front of you because friends and family stood close, and so did literally thousands of people, voters, supporters, citizens. And we won. Tired and exhausted, we won. Jubilant and grateful, we won. And we can continue to win, because when hope fights hate with heart, presence, and humanity, we all stand as champions. Thank you.